Welcome to the Good News from the Gardens podcast. I am Pastor Steve Windsor of Nativity Lutheran Church and School in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Each week, I will be sharing a message grounded in faith, hope, and love of God from our Sunday worship service right here via this podcast. I hope you consider subscribing and sharing this message with others. Thank you for listening. Now this week's biblical reading and message. This is the Holy Gospel according to St. Mark from the 12th chapter. As Jesus taught, he said, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and to have the best seats in the synagogues and places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses, and for the sake of appearance say long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." He sat down opposite the treasury and watched the crowd putting money into the treasury. Many rich people put in large sums. A poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which are worth a penny. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the treasury. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on." The gospel of our Lord. Now, before I get fully into my sermon, I'd like to preface this message with the following. This is a sermon on stewardship. Don't throw tomatoes. Now, you can choose to make this about dollars and cents for yourself, or you can make it about what it looks like for you to live generously from a sense of abundance and not scarcity, from a sense that God lovingly possesses everything of the cosmos and here on earth. And while we are here on earth, we are simply caretakers of what has been given to us. We just recently launched, or to say relaunched, a stewardship committee here at Nativity. I see a few faces in here who are part of that committee. And if you would like to be a part of the caretaking of this congregation, not just in the sense of finances, but in the sense of everything that it does in its job, we would love to have you to be a part of that committee. And I think in sense of like this illustration. Any Premier League or English League soccer fans in the house? Okay, if I'm the only one. All right, Finn, yes, awesome. If you notice the security in the stadium is not called security like it is here in the States, where you would like be at an American football game. But there on the back of their uniforms, security, it says steward, which carries a different connotation, because a steward is somebody that helps you along, shows you, has some answers. A steward in the sense of a soccer stadium may or a football stadium may show you to the bathroom, or might help with disputes. But a steward is a caretaker, somebody that is part of being responsible for the whole of what's going on. So stewards. It's about the security of the possessions of the organization. It's about keeping it safe and keeping it on track. Steward, caretakers. So when I say that this is a sermon on stewardship, it's a sermon that's not necessarily, like I said, about dollars and cents, but it's about stewardship of nativity and how we are called to steward this place and steward God's creation. And one of the goals of our stewardship committee is not looking at it like this 4-week thing that we do in the fall, like when everybody is doing it, but trying to develop it into a stewardship for all seasons, so that it's something that's on our radar. Again, not just about dollars and cents and money to keep the lights on and so forth and so on, but a stewardship of everything that's been entrusted to us while we are here here as Nativity. Stewardship, year-round, all seasons. All right, so there's that. But maybe you've had the same kind of experience that I've had when interacting with a young child. On numerous occasions, I recall asking my girls when they were eating something, we're at the dinner table, saying, and I would try to angle for the last bite of their steak or something. You gonna eat that? In a way, just being playful with them, testing the trust, I guess you could say. Don't know. But at our church trunk or treat a couple weeks ago, I asked the sister, little sister, of one of the preschool kids if I could have a piece of her candy. There she was, sitting on the church front steps that you walk over coming in every morning. She was sitting on the church front steps eating her lone Reese's peanut butter cup in the shape of a pumpkin. It was seasonal peanut butter cup. So I got down to her level and asked her for the good stuff. I said, can I have a bite of that? I really didn't want it, or I really didn't need the chocolate either. I really didn't. But maybe it's because I was dressed as an ice cream man for our Act Love Walk truck. But without a second thought, she started to give me the peanut butter cup that I could see, as well as the one that was clutched and still in the wrapper in her other hand, like this. 2 Reese's peanut butter cups, which is really one these days thanks to shrinkflation, right? Are you familiar with shrinkflation, that term? Yeah, everything has gotten smaller. Ice cream containers, half gallon, that's not a thing anymore. This little girl didn't really know me from Adam, but she still gave of all that she had in her possession right there and then. The rest of this story is that I didn't fleece her for her peanut butter cups. I promise, I really didn't, because I love them. I probably got 20 of them when I got home that night. But the sheer act of giving me all that she has stuck with me. And it came into this sermon today because I thought it was a great illustration. Not unlike when my girls, when younger, would relinquish their treats to me, that's not the response I see myself giving a stranger if they ask me for my last or only 2 peanut butter cups. The story about the widow's mite reminded me of that recent interaction. That poor widow giving away her last 2 copper coins, worth a penny. And it was all that she had to live on. But why would this widow give all that she had to live on? The cynical side of me wonders if she'd been listening to an evangelist tell her some story about how she will be blessed with answered prayers or the abundance of more money if she'd sent it to their wonderful ministry. The backstory of this is that widows were supposed to be cared for by the temple, and so when Jesus says that the widow's money is being devoured, there's a question of whether she was being really cared for, stewarded by that institution, the temple. But here she is, giving all that she had to live on. Jesus said, watch out for the teachers of the law in that first part of our text. For them, it's all about appearances and show. They don't care about anyone other than themselves and just how good they look. They drain the resources of the widows. And Jesus says that they will receive their greater condemnation, which that is repeated by Paul in 1 Corinthians. That robbers and extortioners use forceful means or intimidation or deceit to take from others and they will not inherit the kingdom. Research has shown that the wealthiest of Americans, the top 20% of income earners, donate on the average 1.2% of their sizable incomes, while the lowest 20% of income earners donate 3.2% of their limited incomes. And those who are rich tend not to give to charities that help the poor. Wow, that is sobering, right? I forgot where I read recently, but did you know that not one of the top 50 individual charitable gifts of, I believe it was 2022 data, went to social service organizations or to a charity that principally serves the poor and displaced? Not one of the top 50 went to such a place. The poor tend to give to religious organizations and social service charities, while the wealthy prefer to support colleges and universities, arts organizations, and museums that cater to the nation's and the world's elite. Now, all those things are good things, but not just for the world's elite, but for everybody, right? But if we think about in terms of the proportion of giving, we wonder where is the giving? Prioritize giving is the way the Lord would call us to prioritize giving. None of the biggest donations went to any of our nation's largest social service organizations, being the United Way, the Salvation Army, or Feeding America. None of those, well, Salvation Army is a church-ish. But what about the church? Where is the church in all this? It is no news to you that the church as an institution of philanthropy, of goodwill, is in the midst of an uphill slog. It is having a real difficult time getting traction in the world with so many competing needs. It is expensive to live, is it not? It is expensive to live. In a world that is more and more skeptical of the church's influence, and generations that supposedly want to make a difference by being more hands-on, the finances suffer. Now, I say supposedly because they did not show up at the polls. 42% ages 18 to 20, from those 18 to 29 showed up. But that is another conversation. When giving becomes solely about supporting the organization itself, then the organization loses its purpose. And like our God, we are wired to give of ourselves. Whatever the currency may be of our time, our talent, or our treasures, we are wired to give because our God gave of himself fully. There was no holding back. Jesus' life for ours, so that we may know life abundant. Now, life abundant now and at our earthly end. The church is in flux. Society is in flux. The culture of me, myself, and I is here and now. And you and I, brothers and sisters, we are called to douse it. Douse that way of living. Douse that way of that ideology. Douse it with our baptismal waters that say anything but individuality. That our baptism is a mission to God's people, a mission unto ourself, knowing that we've been claimed by God to be sent into the world, to live for others as God in Christ Jesus did for us. And let me remind you that our God did not give out of a sense of duty, like he had to, like he was contractually obligated to give of himself in Jesus, but gave out of love, period. Because God's very being needed to do so. God needed to satisfy the hurt for his son dying on the cross with love. Giving out of duty is no fun. So don't ever, whatever you do, please don't give of your time, your talent, or your treasures to this place or to any other philanthropic organization like you are making an insurance payment. Please don't give thinking that you'll get something back like special attention from the pastor or the CEOs. Give because giving comes out of you, because your God tells you it is good to give of yourself. Because when you don't give from a sense of abundance and love, then you're not giving out of compassion. You're not giving from the heart. And that's not giving. That's not giving, that's obligation. Was the widow giving money in the temple? Was the widow giving money in the temple duped out of her money? I certainly hope she was not duped out of her money. She believed that her money would feed another person that day. I think it's about her compassion, the reason why she gave. The giving of her own life for her less fortunate neighbor, whoever that may be. She didn't have to check her bank account. She just reached into her coin purse, her pocket, and gave of her last 2 pieces. She was living in the moment, and she acted from the heart. This is also a strong message about the faith of the widow, showing complete trust on God's on her dependence on God to care for her, because the temple was not doing its job. But she knows, if those aren't taking care of me, if the community that is supposed to take care of me is not, I know the Lord my God will. Here's my 2 cents. 1 cent, 2 coins. I recently read about a professional fundraiser who once led an ambitious financial campaign for a congregation. He did some research and found that after an analysis of the church's giving patterns, the majority of the top 50 contributors were widows on fixed incomes. According to his calculation, those widows on fixed incomes were subsidizing about 60% of the congregation's annual budget. His advice was that if they wanted to improve the giving in that congregation, the stewardship committee needed to talk to those women first, right? And find out why they were giving, and then try to infect the rest of the congregation with the faith of these widows on fixed incomes. No matter what amount you have to live on, when you give from the compassion of your heart to meet the needs of others, and again, that's your time, your talent, your treasures. When you give of your heart for others, you have done God's work. It's through you that God answers the prayers of those in need. And that not only strengthens their faith, but it confirms for you that you have purpose and meaning in life. Now, I'd like to share a story with you that I wish our brother Don Lavin would be here to share it with you. Don is still with us. Don't get scared or anything. Don Lavin, if you know Don Lavin, he comes to church when he can. Him and his wife Audrey. And if you didn't know, Don Lavin flew Air Force One for President Jimmy Carter back in, when was that, 76 to 80. Pretty cool, huh? That was his job. He flew for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then he flew for Jimmy Carter for 4 years all over the world. Well, Don was in Air Force One. We're in LA, and they had to pick up Mother Theresa. Pretty cool, huh? So Don and Jimmy Carter and Mother Theresa and whoever else, the entourage, climbs into the plane. They get on the plane, and the first thing that they see is this magnificent spread to eat. Magnificent, Don says. It was a little bit of everything. Good eats. As the story goes, Mother Teresa looked at all that food and said something to the effect of, "We will not eat all this. Not sure we're going to eat any of this, but as soon as we get off the plane, we're going to find a place for this to be given to. So I'm not sure if they ate any of that food on that plane or if they just had to eat granola bars and cheese sticks. I don't know. But they flew all the way across country, and it was Mother Teresa's mission that abundance be given to those in need. That when they got off the plane, that this would be given to those who are really in need. Like the widow who gave generously all that she had. May we throughout our entire lives consider all that we have and what is to come, to take consistent inventory of how blessed we truly are, and be moved to live and give to the glory of God's kingdom, of making it more and more the reality of the abundance that heaven is and that God desires for it to be here on earth. Amen. Thanks for listening. I hope this week's message has given you something life-giving to think about and given you hope that you are loved by God. To learn more about Nativity Lutheran Church and School, search PB Nativity on Facebook or visit our website at nativitylutheranpbg.com. If you would like to support this podcast or any of the ministries of Nativity, please visit our website giving page. Thanks again for tuning into this week's The Good News from the Gardens podcast. Till next week, love God and love God's people.